let's talk about attachment styles. And I don't like to lean in the clickbaity shit. I am a love scholar, I'm an academic. I lean into the research. And I really want to hyper focus on our very first relationship dynamics, which is going to be with our parents, with our siblings, with our extended families, and how those relationships subconsciously influence how we show affection or communicate our needs. In my past video, I was transparent and shared that I am actually no contact with one of my parents, and that is the best case scenario. Um, but that does not denote the fact I am very like laissez faire. I'm very hands off, okay? And that doesn't come from me being a chill, nonchalant, cool girl trying to be mysterious. That comes from the experience of neglect and abandonment, and that being like my first understanding of care in that capacity, which is completely hands off. And so it does not make sense to go into romantic relationship dynamics that are completely hands off or is hot and cold, because that is going to the default of like, oh, well, this is typically what I know. And we start to create, maybe the word is excuses that I'm looking for, or rationales on why like this works for us, when it's actually just another face of neglect. Okay. Or on the opposite side of this, when we're speaking about like hyper anxious attachment styles, right? And where does that stem from? Again, I'm going to use myself for example. Most of my life, my parents were deployed. And so there were some times where I literally raised myself for my entire freshman year of high school. And so, and I'm not saying that to like pull pity, but that is just the reality of my life, and not having a caregiver in the capacity of like affection and nurturing, and how that has translated throughout my life. And so for me, I have to be extremely intentional for the ways that I show up for affection and like just in relationship dynamics, because again, my default is very hands off. But I also have to have the intentionality when I am in relationship dynamics with people. If it's very inconsistent, if it's hands off, if it's hot and cold, that's not an indicator of like chill, nonchalant, just I'm super busy, all those things. Being busy is not an excuse for not showing up in relationship dynamics. And so I think we need to have transparent conversations without shame around these things, and really understand how our first formative relationships with parents, siblings, extended families, early childhood development as it relates to friendship influence the way that we show up in adult relationships, also extending this to friendships as well, and how you are very straightforward in communication, or maybe you're very lackadaisical. All of these things have a why. All of these things have a root cause. And if you want to venture into secure relationship dynamics, it is so important for you to understand what these things are really rooted in. Again, y'all already know my beef with social media, when like it's not a one size fits all model, because I don't know your childhood. I don't know the relationship between you and your mother and how that influences how you show up in the world when it comes through the lens of nurturing, because those things do matter, and they are subconsciously impacting how we show up. But that is not an excuse for you to use as a scapegoat. And I really want to hone that and be very clear on that. That is not an excuse. It is a point of information. Point of information. Man, rest in peace to him. But it is to help you understand how to deepen relationship dynamics, how to build healthy relationship dynamics in the areas that you need to heal. And healing is not done in isolation, it's not done in solitude. And a lot of those traumas, you need help, professional help. Seek out a therapist because you don't know all the tools and frameworks. And I'm speaking about this from a perspective of a lot of my classmates are therapists, so I get to see like a peek behind the curtain. And go see that lady if you need help, okay?